Did you know that we are actually going to be at Gabby's this freaking Saturday? If you're listening to this podcast, the day came out, it is freaking tomorrow. We'll be in Lacey, Washington.
November 4th.
Hell yeah. November 4th, Lacey, Washington, pretty much Olympia. We're going to be at Gabby's. Shout out, one of the dopest card shops around. And they're having their Challengers series, right? The finals and their Challengers series.
Oh, yeah.
So we are actually going to be follow us on our Twitch because we're going to be live streaming Top Table, the best players. The meta at this shop is insane. The heat is real. So we're going to be doing Top Table and we're going to be doing commentating on it. So come through, say what's up if you see us there in person or if you see us in chat.
Yeah, definitely. Like we've done some recaps of tournaments at Gabby's as podcast episodes, so check those out as well.
Yeah, excited to bring you guys actual footage from from some new tournaments that aren't online that you could just watch yourselves.
Yep, plenty of content coming up soon. Welcome to the Moxstars podcast. My name is Evan Kunai. I am one of your three hosts. I'm here with Jordan Garcia.
Yo!
And Christopher Ritter.
Wow, we won.
You said I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah,
I didn't say that. I merely described the act of hearing it.
How did it feel saying it?
Yeah, how did that feel?
Not great either.
Freeing?
Let us know how that felt in the comments below. Welcome back to the show. We are the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. And if you forgot, it's the Moxstars podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can subscribe, like, and hit that bell for more notifications. New episodes every single Friday. And you're probably listening to this on a Friday. So sweet deal.
Happy Friday, dog.
Awesome. We're also on Spotify and all major podcasting platforms. You can find us there. Leave a 5-star review. Makes us look super duper cool. You can join our Discord server where we're having constant conversation about one of our topics today. And we also have a Patreon where we're offering a Pepperhead tier, which is a tier where you get access to 2 private channels on our Discord server. It's basically a supporter role, but you get to contribute to our content. Today, we are opening up our conversation with a shower thought, one of the private channels on the Discord server if you sign up to be a Pepperhead. Today, John, Usable Object, well, yesterday he wrote us a comment. And
Usable Object is his name on Discord, not describing John.
John is a usable object.
Yeah. Oh, God. John, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way.
One of our patrons, bro. You did
one of our patrons. And huge shout out to all of our patrons who are supporting the show so far.
You're all gangsters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jordan, kick us off. What did John have to say?
John, the boys were having a little convo, and Usable Object here kind of had some good things to say. He's from the Gabby meta, right? From, Olympia, plays at a lot of the local tournaments here in the Pacific Northwest. And they're talking about Thassa's Oracle. They're talking about is it still good? Is it still relevant? Is it as good as it used to be? Is it as dominating? And that's the question we're kind of asking today. Is it as good as it used to be? There's new things coming out all the time where there is interaction, ways to stop it, stacks that just prevent it in the first place. Like more and more and more decks have answers to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're answering the question right there. That's what makes it less good. It's as good, like the card itself it's still the same efficient win con, but now decks, because it's so efficient and so many decks run it, like decks pack the interaction for it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we still hear all the time, like how sick of losing to Thassa's Oracle people are, like especially at tournaments. I hear it a lot.
People feel it's stale at this point,
or just like
very boring.
They have had a long fight throughout the game, and they felt like everybody had equal part in it, or maybe someone didn't have an equal part in it, but then was just able to assemble Thassa's Oracle to mount a consultation, and it doesn't feel as satisfying to them.
And I feel like if you've gone to a few tournaments, that's happened to you. Like,
it definitely happens.
It's happened to me a few times, and it's really frustrating when the person who's been out of the game, not interacting, not contributing at all, finally gets to 3 mana, and they jam that Thoracle Consult and win the game.
But I mean, isn't that on you for losing to such an easily interacted with WinCon?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because like they just basically bided their time, and while everyone else interacted with the other players trying to win the game, they just shot the gap at the right time. Like that's what it comes down to. So like, do you need to put in a lot of effort to win games? Sometimes no. Like sometimes the RNG is just not in your favor. You don't pick up enough mana, you don't pick up lands, you don't have the interaction, but the game just so happens to spin and continue down the road for you to actually win with that type of win condition. Something so easy and 2-card combo like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's still the best in the format, but Usable Object was saying, like, he feels like it's not that good anymore, was maybe based off of his own meta, the Gabby's meta, which I know everybody there plays so much stuff to hate on it. Like endurance is everywhere. Whatever the thing that forces the draw with the removal by the costing.
Baleful Master.
Baleful Master. Yeah, these are cards that people just
Scary Masterminds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all of these things are just have come out very recently and have become good enough to size out other cards out of lists. And so the fact that they incidentally also snuff Thoracle wins means like people are targeting these cards because they're wisening up. If you're sick of losing to Thoracle, play all the cards that stop Thoracle from winning. There will become a critical mass of that and it'll stop being a good card.
Well, it's also like the things that stop Thoracle is because of the nature of it, because it's a creature, because you already want to play, say, Dress Down or Tail's End or Stifle type effects and things like that. You can stop Thassa's Oracle from winning with effects that aren't dead cards otherwise.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the greatest shout. I think Dress Down is like absolutely mandatory to play these days. I think it is one of the auto includes in blue now.
That was our takeaway from that tournament, or at least mine from that last tournament, was creatures are everywhere. Creatures are dominant, and as we had on that last conversation, or one of our previous conversations, ETBs are incredibly aggressive, and stopping them, there's very few cards to do that. So Dress Down is definitely a huge card in that category. None of this is, mind you, not even talking about what white brings to the table for this. I mean, Mother of Machines, Elish Norn, has just become a staple in a lot of decks, and that just flat out says Thassa's Oracle does nothing. Yeah,
and I mean, it's a weird meta right now, and I think that John is right to say that his meta definitely affects the efficacy of Thassa's Oracle on the game, because a lot of these guys have seen Atlas win over and over again with Kenrith, and so Kenrith is more present in their pods than I would say in other regions. Maybe Kenrith is rising across the nation, but they see it a lot, and Kenrith also has that Fairy Mastermind type effect on it.
And Atlas is also right. Atlas is also not even the only Kenrith player locally that is like a very good player.
Right.
It is prevalent here.
So yeah, that ability to play the mid game and then threaten someone with cast Kenrith, hold 4 mana, like for anybody who dares threaten the Thassa's Oracle win, if then no one does, I just draw a card.
Yeah, and now there's just more options for more decks to be able to essentially do the similar thing or stop it in their own way. I mean, I play Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation all the time, and in tournament, like I just played like Turbo Najila in the last tournament, and it feels very scary trying to go with Oracle Demonic Consultation because it seems so simple, but like people are going to stop you. People will have interaction. Like the amount of times I resolve it is not even close to 50%.
Yeah, it's one of those things where even like I think you have to have some sort of silence or Ranger Captain effect.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
Yeah, to feel truly confident in like diving for the win like there. You go for it.
There's just some opportunities where it's just like you have the opportunity to present it on turn 2, and you have to ask yourself the question, like, is that better than me going into a longer game and letting these decks that are probably better at establishing mid games, like letting them flourish longer?
Yeah.
That's always the question I'm always asking myself.
It always feels like a really, like in John also says, it feels like a dead card in your hand sometimes, and it really is a dead card in your hand when you go, or like when you pick up a hand that has a ton of interaction, you need to be able to like stop someone from winning, and the only blue card you have to pitch in your hand is a Thassa's Oracle, and then it's like, well, there goes that. It's useful in the way that it continues the game, but there are a lot of combos out there that, well, pretty much will cycle through whatever they're doing, draw their entire library, play Thassa's Oracle, and win the game. So is the risk in just picking it up, it being dead, and or maybe even fodder to a free, you know, like a force of will or a force of negation. So it carries value in that sense that you're able to cast that spell without paying its cost, but you've just lost that option.
Yeah, it depends like
further down the
if
game.
that's like your main win condition or not.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's not even, it's not in Nagila, obviously. There's tons of options.
I
Right.
mean, I think the value of Thassa's Oracle is that it's such a low investment. Like,
Exactly.
you know, you're assigning 2, maybe 3 cards in your deck to it, and 2, maybe 3 of those cards are not dead cards.
Yeah, you have to accept the fact that Thoracle and Demonic Consultation suck, but Tainted Pact, if you're smart, is a very good card.
Yeah.
It's like a very, very good card. And that one, unlike fishing Thoracle, the Force of Will, that feels bad. Casting Tainted Pact for not winning the game usually either wins you the game or does something very impactful in that game still. So I never feel bad like using that instead of just trying to sandbag it for the win.
Yeah, we'll see like the trajectory of the card, because it's like right now people are starting to see its faults.
There are more faults being printed all the time.
Right. Yeah, like new cards coming into the mix that like make it a less effective. While it is still incredibly efficient, a less effective win con at the end of the day.
I mean, you still have to respect it, right?
Oh,
That
100%.
shows its power. Like,
No.
you still got to guard Embiid with 3 people.
Yeah, I want to take it to the point where enough people think it's not good, so people stop playing it and people stop teching against it, and then that way I can keep playing it and then keep winning.
I mean, the amount of people who took Rhystic Study out of their decks because they thought it was
Bingo.
Yeah, fading was like, you should take Sylvan Library out of your decks. You should not take Rhystic Study out of your deck. And you know, it's like I play Hushbringer, I play Mother Machines as well, and those are my contingencies. Like in the colors I like to play, green, white, red, it just like in Naya, there is no true interaction for it. There's only stacks. And like I can't really stop a Thoracle win unless it's a red elemental blast or something. So
Right.
it gets to be like in your colors, depending on what lane you choose, your interaction suite might be limited. And so, yeah, you have to absolutely respect it because you're not there yet and you have to be able to get there. Stacks is usually like the most effective way. Hushbringer just shuts down Dockside and a lot of other things too.
Endurance also.
Yeah, shuts down Endurance.
No, Endurance also shuts down Thoracle.
Oh, right. Yeah, you can use Endurance to like save the day too.
That happened to me at the tournament.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was sad.
Ouch.
I was so close.
Well, all right. That was a wonderful shower thought presented by John,
I feel like I'm in the shower with him right now.
the usable object. It's his Discord handle. Just clarify. Okay. And we have this is very topical in the moment because today we just saw these decks being spoiled for the first time. Today's main subject, the things we want to talk about and put a lot of detail and is the precons revealed today for the Caverns of Ixalan.
Perfect.
I almost said it wrong.
Nailed it. Yeah, we are kind of asking the question today, right? Because semi-recently there was a price raise on the precon decks, right? So we have had some criticisms in the past on like, you know, kind of the quality of the decks, how playable they are out of the box and stuff like that. So kind of like circling back, you know, we haven't bought a ton of these as of late. What's our vibe? Like, are they worth the cost, and are they a good entry point for new people trying to get into Commander?
What's the new cost on these?
I think they're
Evan.
50 or 60.
So I can answer that, at least in the case of Ahoy Mateys, the Grixis Pirates one. Until the price drops on it, you're gonna get value. You're gonna get that 50 whatever value out of it because you have black market connections in there. You have Windfall, and then you have a handful of other cards that get you to that value point for sure.
It looks like you can get all 4 for about 150. Some of them are a few different prices, ranging from like 40 to 60
Amazon is 170, 166
for all 4.
for all 4.
Okay, yeah, I mean, really good deal on these for sure. Like, yeah, as Chris was saying, like some really solid reprints.
Malcolm's in there. How much is Malcolm?
He's cheap.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah.
But I think like more than even just looking at the financial investment of this, I want to like look at how viable is it like out of the box for somebody new to have some good cards to start playing and actually feel like they have a place in that game?
Well, same answer. This deck that I'm talking about has Malcolm if you're looking to make a better deck, and also Breaches if you're looking to make a better deck.
True. You could
Either of those are lines to get there.
totally.
Yeah, and we have a blatant lie presented to us in the past 6 months where I believe Gavin Verhey had said that they are not going to design just like open-ended partner cards anymore. But in this pre-con, we actually get one. For whatever reason, it is...
Oh, the flavor on this is out of control.
Francisco.
Yeah, Foul Marauder.
Yep,
What?
the Parrot Pirate.
Yeah, this card rolls. It's a 1 black, 1 colorless Parrot Pirate partner.
Bird Pirate, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know what the ability is on it, but I just like the idea of it.
Yeah, to just clarify, the reason why we're not be able to pull up that ability is that these decks were spoiled. We are currently on Wizards of the Coast website where all the deck lists are posted. If you tap on any of the new cards at the moment, you cannot see them. You have to go to a different platform and see it for yourself.
Actually, that one's not on Scryfall right now either. I gotta.
Oh, don't worry, I've got you here.
All right.
I'm a Mythic spoiler user, and I can find it no problem.
Shout out Mythic Spoiler. Sponsorship question mark?
Francisco, Foul Marauder, 1 in a black, flying. It cannot block, but it is a 0/1. Whenever one or more pirates you control deal combat damage to a player, Francisco explores. So if you're unfamiliar with the explore mechanic, what it allows you to do is reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, it goes into your hand. End of effect. But if it's a non-land card, you can either choose to keep it on top or put it in the graveyard, and then you put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that explored.
And it has just partner.
And it just has flat out
It's partner. Yep.
So Demir Malcolm, let's go.
Well,
make it work.
Why would you take Timno away? It's like...
You have now have partner commanders in every color for pirates actually though.
Oh well, let's go.
Good show. I'm sure you could do some silly stuff with this for sure.
Yeah. So we're just gonna go ahead and start with this pirate precon. There are a lot of in each deck there are 9 new cards. I think that's sort of like the standard now is that they want to basically have 9 new cards in every single precon moving forward. So
what is the commander of this deck?
Yeah, it is.
A new Admiral Beckett Brass.
Yes, Admiral Brass, unsinkable. 5 mana, 2 blue, black, red. When Admiral Brass unsinkable enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It has base power and toughness 4/4. It gains haste until end of turn. If you don't know what a finality counter is, when that creature leaves the battlefield, you exile it instead of putting it anywhere else.
Okay.
And you know what? I kind of love the alternate commander on here because the piracy flavor is super strong on this one. Don Andres the Renegade. Each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2, has menace and death touch, and it is a pirate. And in addition to its other types, whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, create 2-tap treasure tokens.
When you cast
So
a
it's
non-creature spell you
recruiting
don't
new
own.
pirates. It's doing piracy, stealing your stuff.
Like Atali wants to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super fun.
That's pretty cool. No,
Yeah.
I like that. That's very cool.
Just to clarify the wording on the finality counter, if a creature with a finality counter on it would die, exile it instead. So you can actually return it to your hand.
Oh,
and,
yeah, true.
So you could...
Yeah, this is an
essentially-
interesting new little mechanic. With exile, instead of saying exile at end step, they've created this whole new counter. I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like they still had play space. They could have just been like, hey, this thing has Undying or something, and it would have been fine.
But yeah, I didn't even think about what you said, like flickering it, Displacer Kitten is blue. So
there's that.
Easy enough, or if you want to like actually find something that removes counters, but honestly just feels like easier to flicker it.
Yeah, they are sort of like capping these commanders. I think it's wise. It's never a great idea to just like keep it very well. We've learned our lesson from keeping cards very open-ended. This one is just 1 trigger per turn to return a pirate from your graveyard to the battlefield. Notably, what's missing from this list, Dockside, which would have been a great reprint, great value. But we are still getting great value.
You're getting Ragavan as a token. But
Oh my god.
I was like, did I miss something?
no, you got Kari Zev.
Yeah. So you actually don't get the dockside here, but you do get where is it? It's Black Market Connections, which is, well, an expensive card now. It's almost $20. It is 2 and a black, and you get to choose 3 options. I'm sure if you've watched Command Zone or anything like that, you can just, the full send joke is always present with it. But let's see, you get Time Stream Navigator, which was rising in price. Let's see, there's so much actually like flavor in this deck. You get actual Admiral Beckett Brass from the Ixalan main set. You get a Hostage Taker, Siren Storm Tamer. It just seems like a very synergistic deck. And then all of the new cards are also really good.
Yeah, I like this. The Indomitable. This is a very cool vehicle. It's also it's a pirate ship. It's dope. It's 2 blue for a legendary artifact vehicle, 6/6 with trample. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's a pretty sick thing to have stapled to a vehicle or just an artifact in general.
Totally.
Not to mention that it could come to life and swing for 6. It has crew 3, and it also says you may cast the Indomitable from your graveyard as long as you control 3 or more tapped pirates and or vehicles. I love that. It's just like all out, just swinging with pirates, recasting this crazy ass ship.
I do like, there's another artifact in here. It's called the Grim Captain's Locker.
Yes.
3 and a black for a legendary artifact. Tap Surveil 1. Also has tap until end of turn. Each creature card in your graveyard gains escape. 3 and a black. Exile 4 other cards from your graveyard.
Okay, that seems like you can do some shit with it.
Yeah, the only thing is that once the card leaves the graveyard, is a new permanent, it loses that ability. It doesn't go back to the graveyard and continue having escape. So you kind of get like a one-off for what you can't really like loop anything through it.
Not individually, for
Right.
sure.
But
I still feel like there's some, you got to be able to do something.
yeah, to like reanimate a Technomancer to start your dockside loops isn't like too bad. I think that you could like even just hitting dockside off of this if you know it's going to be mana positive is actually not too bad of a deal.
We also got Stormfleet Negotiator, 2 and a blue for a Siren Pirate flying 2/2 with Parlay. Whenever Stormfleet Negotiator attacks, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, you create a map token, then each player draws a card. I have a question. What is a map card? Or map token?
Map token is pay 1, tap, sack, and then target creature explores.
Target creature explores, which remind me what Explorer is?
You look at the top card. You reveal the top card of your library. Or no, you look at it. You don't have to reveal it. If it's a land, you may reveal it, put it in your hand. If it's a non-land, you can leave it on top or put it in your graveyard. You do have to reveal it?
Yep.
Thank you, Ritter. So reveal it. Land, hand, not land, top, graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on something.
Oh, you can put it in the graveyard instead if you bet. Okay.
So many new things, so many new counters. The next deck we're going to talk about is the Blood Rights deck. The vampire, black-white vampire deck that has a...
Also, I feel like this was the first card that got spoiled.
Yeah, I think they were. I think the first, like the face commanders were like the first cards we got spoiled from this entire set. So
This is at least the first one I saw was this guy. I have no idea how to pronounce this name.
give it a shot, dude.
Oh, God.
Clavileño.
Actually, that's pretty good. Clavileño. Man, they are going for it with this set. Clavileño, first of the blessed. 1 white black for a vampire cleric 2/2. Whenever you attack, target attacking vampire that isn't a demon, becomes a demon in addition to its other types. It gains when this creature dies, draw a card and create a tapped 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. That's a lot of words.
Hey, at least they didn't add a new counter or type of anything with that outside game mechanic. There's also the secondary commander, Carmen, Cruel Sky Marcher, which I actually think this card's a little bit better. 3 and a white and a black, flying. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Carmen, Cruel Sky Marcher, and you gain 1 life. When Carmen attacks, return up to 1 target permanent card with mana value less than or equal to Carmen's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. I think
Damn.
people sacrifice permanents quite a lot. So this thing could get big fast. It's just a high investment for a 2/2.
It's a flyer too.
Yep, it's a flyer. So you can definitely knock
That's pretty
somebody
fun. I mean, I
with it.
could see building like a casual deck like with this. This seems pretty sick.
Yeah, and just like the reanimation ability is, I think you're going to be able to get to like 5.
You could do some scary stuff with that, I feel.
Yeah, like 5 counters is not unrealistic to happen in a single turn, like go around, especially with how prevalent treasures are.
Yeah. No, this is pretty cool. Any notable new cards from this deck?
I think people were very excited about the Exquisite Blood reprint. So
Reprint. Okay.
yeah.
Let's go.
So Exquisite Blood's getting a reprint. The value on this deck is not as great as the Pirate deck. Obviously, getting Black Market Connections is a huge bonus. But I think that we're at the point now with vampires that they've all the valuable vampires out there that were there like 5 years ago and were like $20 or $30 a piece. Even looking at Twilight Prophet. Twilight Prophet's now like less than $5, and it's getting reprinted now in this deck.
Bloodghast used to be 20 4 years ago.
What is it now?
Probably close to $2 or $3.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea. I haven't even looked.
So all of these cards that have like a reputation for being great in other formats are now being plugged into these decks. So when you look through the list, you actually see like a lot of vampires that are powerful or great or have a lot of synergy. They've just dropped in value so much that the deck here doesn't actually hold up. So like Alenda Duskrose is one of those things where it's like it was reprinted in Double Masters, reprinted in the ground, had another reprint, blah, 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 this had this. So we just aren't seeing like a ton of value here in the creatures. You're getting most of your value outside of that. Blade of the Blood Chief was almost a $10 equipment. So yeah, really great. I think the deck itself is going to come out of the box and do the thing it needs to do, which is put a lot of vampires on the battlefield, and then when they die, they become bigger vampires that fly.
Here's an interesting card, March of the Canonized. It's a new card in this set, or in this precon. X white for an enchantment. So it's giving me like Meat Hook Massacre vibes. Except when March of the Canonized enters the battlefield, create X/1/1 vampire creature tokens with lifelink. At the beginning of your upkeep, if your devotion to white and black is 7 or greater, create a 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying.
And it contributes 2 to that. So you only have to do 5 more.
Correct.
Doesn't seem too bad.
I just think it's funny that it lets you create tokens on the front end and then gives you payoff for tokens on the back end with tokens within the back end. And none of those help with the devotion whatsoever.
Wow. And then, they gave this deck board wipe protection. Dusk Legion Sergeant is a 2/2 menace, and you can pay 2 mana, sack it. Each non-token vampire you control gains persist until end of turn. So a great way to like save your board when you're just trying to like
That's tight.
clean.
It's
things
almost
out.
like a black selfless savior kind of effect.
Yeah. Oh man, Master of Dark Rites, a 1 mana vampire cleric, 1/1, tap, sacrifice another creature, add 3 black mana to your pool. Spend this mana only to cast vampire cleric and or demon spells.
Bro, if this was like a standard deck or a standard legal card, this would do some crazy.
I think this card just has merit on its own. I think you could actually play this in like Edgar Markov and kind of go nutty.
Dude, yeah,
Just
all
like
the
turbo
tokens.
Yeah, you just because you create a token off of this, you just tap
vampires.
it, sack it, and you turbo to Edgar.
Oh my god, this is actually an auto-included Edgar deck. So
Yeah.
What the hell? That's
So,
crazy.
Yeah, I think that you could actually see some pretty aggressive Edgar decks like coming out of like the fringe category.
Yo, well, here you go. This is like a top end, kind of a finisher, because I feel like these decks make a lot of tokens but don't have like a Crater Hoof kind of effect in these colors. Check this out. Order of Sacred Dusk. 6 white black for a Vampire Knight 5/5. It has Convoke, which is hot.
Awesome.
It also has Flying, Lifelink, and Haste. And it also says Exalted, which is whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then it says other vampires you control have Exalted.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome actually, because I don't know if you've ever played like Rafika the Many, very similar effect, but yeah, this enters the battlefield after you tap out potentially 8 vampires, so it can
You totally could just
you could just be a 9+9+9 if you can. Yeah, if you devoted, if everything you'd use to cast it was a creature, so just right off the bat.
Yeah, that's actually nutty with haste.
Yeah.
In the air and a lifelink. This is just a haymaker of a card.
Yeah, so it'd be a 14/14, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's not counting if you have even more vampires on the battlefield. So this
Right.
could be, yeah, definitely a finisher that I don't think anybody's really going to see coming.
Yeah, this is honestly tight. This is more cards like this is what we need.
Yeah, that's a really fun commander deck.
100%. All right, Evan, let's talk about the deck you're excited about.
Velociraptor!
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it's obviously Naya.
It's Naya. It's all about dinosaurs.
What does the commander do?
Punch Laza.
Oh my God, we talked about this.
Yes,
Never mind.
it
Moving
is.
on.
Punch Laza is so amazing. It is 2 a red, green, and a white. Enters the battlefield, or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control. You may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. We talked about it on a previous episode, but Punch Laza is a food chain outlet that you can use to cast everything 4 or less from your library and set up a lot of really cool wins. You can buff it and do even more. That'd be great, but I think we've talked about that enough. It can be a competitive deck, and I think that people are going to start like testing it out. It's probably never going to get past Fringe, but we'll see. The backup commander, the secondary commander, which I think is way more interesting of a dinosaur build around, is Weta, Trainer Prodigy. 1 of each, so red, green, and white. Legendary human warrior, a 1/5 with haste. You can pay 2 and a green, tap, target creature you control fights another target creature. This ability costs 2 less to activate if it targets 2 creatures you control.
Wait, what? Target creature you control fights another target creature. This ability costs 2 less to activate. That's crazy.
Yeah, so you can tap.
Why would you do that?
Well, just wait until you hear this next little line. If a creature you control being dealt damage causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It's all built around Enrage.
Oh,
Because
this is sick.
Because it's a 1/5.
There's also a reprint of Temple Altasaur in the deck that if a source would deal damage to another dinosaur you control, prevent all but one of that damage.
Oh, word.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty cool because you can like Blasphemous Act and just like everything's dealt 1 damage. You get all your triggers, double those triggers, and everyone else loses their board. So this is a really cool commander because it's like pitting your dinosaurs against each other to make them stronger or to trigger their effects.
Dude, this plus like Brash Taunter or Stuffy Doll is nuts.
Yeah, because they're small.
I mean,
Well, because they re-trigger the damage to another person, so now you're doubling all damage dealt to them.
Yeah, I'm.
yeah, I mean, you got Apex Altasaur right in the deck. You have the colors to throw.
This is
Brash
actually
Taunter.
this is super cool.
Yep.
This is super duper cool.
So yeah, this is actually seems like a really fun commander deck to build around. Definitely casual. The cost reduction is what makes it viable for me to be able to pay a green and tap. So you can actually pay a red, green, and a white to cast Weta, and then immediately pay 1 green and tap it because it has haste to start getting your enrage triggers. We also have a lot of really great reprints in this deck. The thing is that a lot of people were complaining online saying that 39 lands is a bit high of a land count for a precon, even of this like high mana value. But the average like mana value of a creature in this deck is 5.
It's also not running dorks or rocks besides Soul Ring and Arcane Signet.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe a few upgrades to consider for the deck.
This one, definitely needs some upgrades. They just printed basically, Zatalpa EDH All-Star. And then we have Wakening Sun's Avatar, which I don't think needed the reprint for this. Like I said, we've just seen reprints of these cards already, and so their values are starting to drop, so they're more comfortable putting them into commander decks and into precons.
Here's a card I really like. This is actually one of the new ones from this deck. Scion of Calamity. This is just such a green card. It's so unbelievably green.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a 5 mana 5/5 because, of course, it is a dinosaur with 3 heads. and has Myriad, which is so lit. If you don't know what Myriad is, essentially when you attack for each other opponent that's not getting attacked, you create a token attacking it, copy token of that creature. He says, when Scion of Calamity deals combat damage to a player, destroy a target artifact or enchantment that player controls. This gives me kind of Kogla vibes, but like different.
Totally.
Scaled. And it's just a wrecking machine, because it's like, if you don't want your Rhystic Study to get destroyed, you have to let something die.
Yeah, being 5 mana is actually not that high of a cost for this to be able to swing with 15 power.
Exactly.
Like basically every turn.
This is a damage dealing machine, and it's just going to destroy everything. It's going to be like, yeah, I don't even need to. I want to just hit you for 5. I will destroy your Soul Ring. That is gone now.
I wish it had trample.
I wish it had trample. That would be sick. But
Yeah. Then there's another dinosaur in here. This one's actually curious to me. Curious Altasaur, 3 and a green, a 2/5 Vigilance Reach. Whenever a dinosaur you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yep.
So it obviously really great in this deck, especially when you're maybe having Weta as the commander. But yeah, you're just getting... I know it doesn't like trigger it because it doesn't have an enrage or whatever, but you're playing dinosaurs. It's going to be a great card in there. You're going to be swinging in with Gisheth and drawing a card off the Gisheth trigger, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Wrathful Raptors is a new card for 4 and a red, trample 5/5. And whenever a dinosaur you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dinosaur.
So there are stuffy doll things you can definitely do.
Yeah, so this deck is getting crazy and crazier.
Well, this actually interacts with Weta really well too, because it doesn't say enrage, but it basically does, right? So if damage dealt to a permanent you control or a creature you control, it would trigger a second time. So you actually get 2 damage triggers off of the whole thing, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and then if that's a stuffy doll, that's essentially like, what is that, 3 or 4 triggers like of damage?
Yeah, it would just it'd be crazy.
It goes nuts. I love that, actually. I kind of want to play this deck. Low-key, I think all of the mechanics are super fun, and the flavors there, like, these are actually great decks.
Yeah, these are going to be easy enough to like bust out the box and actually, well, not sit there and dawdle. I think is a big criticism that we've had in the past with commander decks is that they come out the box
and sometimes they don't have a direction. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This has a firm direction of what it wants to do.
Right.
Also, I just want to shout out another card that's new in this deck. Shout out. This is just going to be an awesome like tribal staple in any deck in any color. If you like tribal cards or decks, Progenitor's Icon for 3 colorless mana artifact. When it ETBs, choose a creature type. It taps for 1 mana of any color, which we see a lot of 3 mana, 1 mana of any color artifacts. But it also taps and it says the next spell of the chosen type you cast this turn can be cast as though it had flash. So, I mean, a pretty decent color fixing, like say you're playing Slivers or whatever, like that is your 5 colors. So that's a great color fix. And now you're flashing in stuff. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's like definitely a commander. You could say it could be a commander staple because it just allows you to basically give your commanders flash whenever you want. You know, it's like
Totally.
I think yeah.
Or if you have like your commander plus like 3 or 4 other cards that happen to be the same.
Yeah.
Have it overlap, you know? It's like kind of a Cavern of Souls, same kind of thought. I think it's interesting. Just it kind of gives a little more legs, a little more gas to those kind of decks.
All right, and we have one more deck to talk about. The precons here are obviously very exciting, but this one, I feel like a lot of people just shuffle this one to the back, but they shouldn't. This deck actually looks like it hits. It is the Explorers, or it is Explorers of the Deep, green-blue Merfolk deck.
Yeah, no, there's just tons of synergies there.
Yes.
There's a bunch of lords printed in there already. Like,
I think they put every lord and every +1/+1 counter anything in
I
here.
think they're missing Lord of Atlantis, and that might be the missing one. And
Yeah.
is that reserve list?
Don't think so.
Are you sure?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But
Okay,
yeah,
what
no,
does
they
this
got
into
a ton in there.
So
Commandy do?
yeah, Hawkball.
Perfect.
The Surging Soul.
Perfect.
Oh, okay, all right. It's a legendary creature, Merfolk Scout, as a 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each Merfolk you control explores. Yeah, we explained that a few times. Exploring is really cool. When Hawk Ball of the Surging Soul attacks, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield if you don't draw a card. Now, this has been my biggest complaint with Explore. Well, since its release in the original Ixalan, is that when you reveal a land card, you get nothing basically from it. It comes to your hand, and if it's an inopportune moment, like it's
Drew land.
Yeah, you drew a land. Like, woo!
Sometimes not what you wanted to have happen.
Yeah, so this actually gives like use to it, so you can actually ramp from it. You can move forward. You know, if you don't put a land down,
Well, this is actually crazy.
potentially draw a card that
Yeah.
replaces it or whatever.
Yeah, it has no downside. And this is crazy because it says for each merfolk, you get a lot of merfolk sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So just go to combat one time. You have like 5 merfolk, cast him, go to combat.
Like I said, you can just move cards out of the way every time a creature explores. You can put it in the grave instead, so you can just keep looking and looking and looking and looking.
Or pick up 4 lands and drop 4 lands all of a sudden on tabs.
Yeah, well, you only get 1 land trigger. One. It's only when Hawk Ball attacks is when you get to put a land down. So
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
yeah. Otherwise, you get it to your hand. Your hand size is going to be crazy with this deck. The backup commander,
Oh, yeah. Let me hear it.
Zolotoyak.
Full send.
Sholatoyak. I think that's probably the way it's pronounced.
That sounds about right.
Sholatoyak, the Smiling Flood, 4 green and a white salamander serpent.
Oh, I hope this is busted.
Whenever Sholatoyak, the Smiling Flood, enters a battlefield or attacks, put a flood counter on target land. That land is an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has a flood counter. At the beginning of your end step, untap each permanent you control with a counter on it.
Oh, my God. I'm building this. You guys are going to hate this fucking deck.
It's honestly kind of amazing. I read it for the first time and I was like, this is shades of AC.
Well, I mean, it's Seedborn Muse in the command zone.
Yeah.
Oh my! Plus, it's Seedborn Muse stapling on a Quicksilver fountain.
Yes.
with an ETB, brother. That is Displacer Kitten. You're all tapping for blue across the board.
Well,
I mean,
the thing is, it is addition to their other types when it puts a counter on there. It doesn't remove the land.
no.
Yeah, I know, because that's what I thought too. I was like,
Never
know what?
mind, it sucks.
This is actually really good because you can just shut off, but no, you can't.
Why would you take that away from me, Wizards? That'd be so sick, bro.
Quicksilver Fountain is a
In
great card.
addition to its other types.
Well, I'm pretty sure if you played, I'm not sure if Quicksilver Fountain interacts with this at all, but it's still probably worth playing. Yeah, because it untaps each permanent you control with a counter on it, so you can still.
There's that, but
yeah, you can still put flood counters on other people's things. All right, so
but it's the key thing is untap each permanent you control with a counter on it. It's any type of counter. So
yes.
So think about it, your gemstone. If your gemstone caverns entered with a luck counter,
wow, that's a fair point.
Yeah,
That's a fair
there's
point.
lots of things that are going to have counters. Incidentally, you're in Simic colors. You're going to throw +1/+1 counters on things.
Yeah, I mean, Kumena is in here, so you can tap a certain number of merfolk to put +1/+1 counters on all of them.
Oh, that's actually
then there's
nuts. Even with the Explorer on everything.
Yeah, that too. The Explorer, just you have potential to get counters.
No, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then Prime Speaker Zagana in there just to put more counters on things.
It's not quite as
Voral of the Hulklade has the ability to double counters.
Yeah, you might want to throw Gyre Sage in here or something.
Oh yeah, I think that's
that would be you could get hella mana off that.
They put Evolution Sage in here for the proliferate. What else? I think Gyre Sage with any of the evolved mechanics are going to go great here.
Whoa, here's an interesting new card printed in this.
Yeah.
Ripples of Potential. Instant for 1 and a blue.
That sounds like it does something.
It has potential.
Whoa.
Instant for 1 and a blue. Proliferate. Then choose any number of permanents you control that had a counter put onto them this way. Those permanents phase out.
Wow.
That seems interesting.
Yeah. I can. It's board wipe protection.
Yeah.
But it requires a little bit of setup. I think this. I mean, note that you can do this with planeswalkers as well. You can get
protected planeswalkers.
Yeah,
Pretty
phase
sweet.
out.
I mean, that just actually sounds like a great Super Friends card.
There's part of me that just believes right here that Xolotoyak is the better commander for the deck. They just needed to put a Merfolk on the front of the box so that it would be thematic.
Merfolk with the...
I don't know. I think this other guy is actually going to be gas. I think every Merfolk exploring at combat is going to be nutty.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad, but I think like the open-endedness of Xolotoyak makes for like a more skill-based deck building. So you could actually create some really busted scenarios with it, where I guess the Merfolk commander really just wants to spawn like
Merfolk tribal dog.
Yeah, it has a lot of Merfolk.
Make a lot of Merfolk.
Hey, do Merfolk things.
Here's another Merfolk lord if you love playing a bunch of lords out.
What?
Mist Dancer. 4 and a blue for a 3/3 flying Merfolk wizard. Other Merfolk you control get +1/+0 and have flying. That's a pretty nice finisher.
Yeah, and then there's another.
He also has Encore for 5 blue,
Oh, what?
which is pretty toy.
That's actually nice. +3/+3 or +3/+0 on all of your Merfolk
With
and
flying.
triple flying.
And that's just alone. That's each one's giving it another 2. So each of these are 5/3s, not including all your other Merfolk.
Yep. Topography tracker, 2 and a green. If a creature you control would explore, instead it explores, then explores again. So that's going to be a great card to be out. It's 3 mana, so it just curves right into your commander. I think this deck in general, my overall view is that this one will win more games consistently if you're to play all of them against each other right out of the box. I just think that out of all of them, this one is just going to amass so much value. There aren't like tons of widespread removal. There are a few board wipes throughout this one has a one-sided board wipe called Wave Goodbye that returns all creatures to their owner's hands that don't have counters on them. So you can push everything back.
Wave Goodbye. That's actually pretty tight.
So I think this one is going to shoot out the gate, have a bunch of stuff low to the ground, have a bunch of lords, and then we'll be punching for way more damage than you might expect. So, especially if they're exploring, if every single Merfolk is exploring at the beginning of combat.
Yeah, there's just, we've talked before about how just whatever the cards are doing, as long as you have synergy, if you have enough synergy there, it's going to do something powerful, and that's just what Merfolk excels at.
Right.
And if you look at this deck list, there's enough passive things that whatever you're landing, it's just going to snowball.
Yeah, like looking at your Simic Merfolk deck, right? Like it feels like there's a lot more like modernized synergies and strategies being added now that totally go hand in hand with everything you're already doing and has existed, but just kind of gives it some like firm grounding in modern Magic. I really like this new card, Singer of Swift Rivers. 1 green blue is a creature Merfolk Shaman 3/2 with flash, and it says when he enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on another target creature you control.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet, like little combat trick or protection kind of thing. Board wipe protection, whatever. And then it also says you may cast Merfolk spells as though they had flash. So that's just a great Merfolk card now.
Yep.
All of a sudden that deck gets a little bit better every time something like that comes out.
Allows you to play on your back foot instead of just always having to just lay it out straight.
Creature, lord. Creature, lord.
And there's a card from the main set, Deeproot Pilgrimage, that makes Kumena just busted now. And it's a card that everyone's going to go out and get and plug into that deck if you still have it built. 1 and a blue enchantment. Whenever 1 or more non-token Merfolk you control become tapped, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with hexproof.
Yeah, no, that's nutty.
You're basically able to, as long as you have non-token Merfolk to tap for Kumena's ability, which is just tap 1 at a time if you want, you can just basically just exponentially double your battlefield.
And then if you're playing doubling season or whatever.
Well, not exponentially, but you can double the number of non-token Merfolk that you have.
It gets crazy.
Yeah, it gets big to where it's not so hard to hit that tap 5 Merfolk, put +1/+1 counters on all of them. It gets actually a lot easier.
Okay. So wrapping things up here, what do you guys think about these precons?
I think they're getting better. And that's been, not necessarily the case all the time. I think when we were looking at Innistrad and Crimson Vow and stuff like that, those decks were ass. They were not good out of the box. They were flat. The mana bases were also just lacking. But now that we've, as a collective voice, the community has come forward and said, hey, these aren't good enough. Why are we being charged more money for decks that just, aren't good enough anymore, and so they're actually putting in valuable like cards that people want to see in these decks, synergies that make sense rather than just cards that are being flung about.
Yeah, I think it looks like they're paying attention to every card in the deck list instead of being like, all right, this is the commander, here's some synergy cards, here's some new cards, here's your mana base, and then here are 40 or 50 filler cards that are just happen to be in that color wheel
Right.
and are available to reprint and aren't going to affect value.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like for the longest time, for no reason, we were getting Zatalpa, the whatever 4/8 double strike, flying, indestructible, vigilant dinosaur.
Goated.
In every deck that has had white in it.
Yeah, it
Had to be a top end.
It was the top end.
Yeah, I think they were not. I think there might have been a fundamental like misunderstanding of the format in like the way they were designing the decks, because they were thinking about like almost like a limited format. Like, hey, you got to just have some beaters, and those beaters can be
Right.
battle cruiser, CMC, and
Well, it really comes down to it. Like when our decks are fine tuned, we don't have a single free slot to just have a beater.
Yeah, and there's a difference between like absolutely fine-tuned competitive or whatever and like just optimized in a way.
Yeah, I
And
just
think-
even man when we play casually, all
yeah.
of our stuff is optimized.
you want the
right?
cards to be in there for a reason.
We still look at all
yeah.
of our lists and make sure everything is right.
Yeah, I think they're finally understanding what they've created, which is like anyone who is devoted to this game is not going to just buy this precon, open it, and then set it aside and be happy. They're going to toy with your other products. They're going to build a deck out of it if they enjoyed the experience. So now they're like, hey, you don't have to quite go as far to make this like optimized. We're actually helping you.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
just
like
a few cards in this deck will any of these decks will be like humming.
yeah, and there is like a market where they could just be like, hey, if you just want to buy this one, hey, we printed this really cool legendary creature. You want to build a deck out of it? Here you go. But it's like they're actually, you could have done that.
Secret
but,
layer.
Yeah, right. Instead, they're just like, nope. These are like all of these cards that are going to go in there have synergy mechanics, blah this, blah that, blah that.
A lot of thought and like a lot of like flavor and fun mechanics are coming out from
Yeah. And the new cards to actually, for like the dinosaur one, to cycle back to Enrage, which I never thought would rear its head again.
Right.
I was just like, well, that's just the mechanic that's dead now. They're not even going to bring it back for Caverns, but they did. You
right.
know,
and like there's
made
like
things better.
so many cards that like this all of a sudden have a place and a home and a commander to lead it that actually makes it fun and exciting and like actually viable too.
The game is better for having these precons. And I'll say that like the way it seems is that we're on the right trajectory for getting, well, as long as we stay vocal and don't get complacent, for getting like actual mana bases put in. That's my only complaint.
Yeah, get a
100%.
shock land in there occasionally. Would be
Yeah.
Yeah. Or do a premium version, like, $75 and you get the Shockland.
Well, I think what you do see, though, at least, is you not necessarily relating to the mana base, but like you see them printing cards that are naturally synergistic with the commander precons in the main deck. Like that still work in every format. But then, you mentioned a couple cards, like what was that one Merfolk that you mentioned, where it's like, hey, you're going to be also getting packs of this set.
Right.
And here's good cards.
right.
Right.
That
The
are gonna
best
upgrade
Merfolk.
these decks.
Yeah. The best Merfolk card
Already.
in the set is not in the Merfolk precon. It's
Yeah.
in the main set.
Totally. And the way they move forward with this, I would even be comfortable with them identifying the the staples in every single deck. Like, they've obviously identified Soul Ring and Arcane Signet as those cards, but I feel like there are a few more artifacts out there that you could like splash in and say like, hey, these are staples now.
I mean, you
take
don't
it out if you want.
You don't automatically get the signets or the talismans.
Right.
No.
That's
Yeah.
true, which honestly, I think more often than that you should.
You should.
Unless
you
you're green
You
and
should
like,
get Felloar Stone all the time.
Or elves and like,
Yeah.
dorks get printed like, a ton more because, the green gets supported a little bit.
Because that actually like stifles the dinosaur deck a little bit by not having like any devoted, just generic,
Just hit your
like
drops.
dorks.
Yeah, it relies on ramp in a deck that wants creatures.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Unless you like playing Cultivate on turn 2, 3, and 4. Like,
Yeah.
Sorry,
but
ramp spells, not. Yeah.
But that being said, these decks are not more than 10 cards away from being optimized.
yeah, 100%. And
Like-
not expensive cards, too.
Yep. Yeah. So, right path, these decks, I think my favorite one out of all of them, like I said, I think the Merfolk one is going to be like the one that I'm like, you know what, this actually is really good and really fun. So, that's one, if I was to go pick one up, I'd probably pick that one.
What about you, Chris?
I think they all have enough synergy that, like, do you like dinosaurs? Do you like vampires? Do you like merfolk? Or do you like, what's the one I didn't name? Pirates?
Pirates.
Vampires. Yeah. Like, what's your, out of those 4 types of things, choose one of them. They're all going to play really well, all going to play really synergistically, and you will be rewarded for playing the game in a way that you like to play it.
Yeah, honestly,
you can still win,
These look so fun that I actually might just buy all 4. Because they're at a very reasonable price point. $160 for all 4 right now. It seems very good.
There have been like sets of commander decks where they've dropped them in like like 5s and whatever. And that honestly, like for the flavor of like Strixhaven, that made sense. There's 5 schools of magic.
Yeah.
For this, I feel like they should just go full steam ahead and make a battle box and just like say like, hey, you can buy them individually, or you can buy this box, take it to the table, and they're all designed to play against each other. And then
maybe even like a premium card that,
yeah,
like Pokemon style, where you get the few like single cards or whatever.
Or you get like deck boxes designed around those decks.
They've gone into special editions of each set and repackaging different types of things. So maybe that's the next step. Instead of the 4-pack of the commander decks, then in the holiday season you have the special edition of those commander decks, which are upgraded premium precons.
Totally. Like imagine
great
like,
gifts.
Yeah, like when an expensive card gets printed in the first printing of like a precon deck, like Dockside or Black Market Connections. Could you imagine then, and like later that year, you're getting a reprint of that deck with a premium version?
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
I'm shocked that they didn't actually pull the trigger on that for the Lord of the Rings stuff. With like big of a push that they're doing for that, as good as those precons were from Lord of the Rings, like why not test the market there? Like, hey, in the holiday season, we have 2 new upgraded precons. Like, you have your upgraded Sauron precon with the good Sauron, and you have your upgraded Sam and Frodo or whatever you want to do,
Yeah. Still room to grow, but I definitely think they've made a lot of progress from definitely back in the day when we were looking at these precon decks.
Well, yeah. I mean, I pulled the trigger on pre-ordering, even just seeing the commanders pre-ordering all the Fallout decks. And that's like, I like that IP, but also I have confidence that those decks are going to be pretty fun.
100%, yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot of new blood in our like Magic group, a lot of new cards, a lot of new decks coming up, which I'm excited about.
While it can all be overwhelming, there is like that silver lining where it's like you're going to show up to the table and you're going to have a new experience pretty much every single time. Not so much to be said about every single CDH table you turn up to. Very rarely does the meta turn in as much as the casual scene. But it's very exciting to basically go in. I think the last couple of times I've been to Mox and sitting and playing casual Magic, I haven't played against a commander that I'm familiar with yet. So like I'm playing my decks or whatever, and then everyone else is playing stuff I've never seen.
Yeah, it's kind of great, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun spot to be again. And I'm excited to kind of cycle back and do a little more casual Magic. Like this Carmen deck looks really cool. The 5-color
sack a permanent, get a counter.
Yeah, that one sounds rad. And I do kind of want to play this Weta trainer one, the Rage one, but more to focus on like I think like some of these stuffy doll kind of mechanics. I love Chandra's Incinerator as a card, so I'm always always trying to find a home there. And I think this is going to be an awesome spot for Chandra's Incinerator, honestly.
Yeah, I think we'll have to have a conversation about all these Jurassic Park cards coming out because they're all really spicy too.
Oh yeah, there's tons of gas coming out for sure. We'll do a review on it.
But like you said, I think we're wrapping up. This has been another episode of the Moxstars podcast. If you would like to support the show, you can do so by subscribing to us on YouTube, hitting that thumbs up, and ringing that bell for more notifications, finding us on all major podcasting platforms. Make sure you give us a 5-star review because we are super cool. Not only do we look super cool when you see us in person, but we are super cool. You can also support us on Patreon by becoming, for $3 a month, you can join our supporter role and become an official Pepperhead. Get access to those 2 private channels, help contribute to the content creation, and also get access to the Dr. Pepper channel.
Shout out to all my pea heads out there.
It's the new one, new upgrade. Pepperheads. Right.
So we're not saying that again.
Just wanted to test it out.
Oh, yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, you tested it.
All right, fine.
All right, all you Pepperheads out there, good night.
Bye.